very much for the kind introduction. You know, when they told me they were going to play the video, I was a bit chagrined, because in my mind's eye, I have a full head of hair. But as children of God, we realize our limitations and our mortality. But as a free people, we must always recognize the greatness within us. This generation of Americans has a choice to make. We can focus on the jeopardy, or we can seize the opportunities. We can seize freedom. Our nation was conceived as a revolutionary experiment in liberty and self-government. And today, we are called to conserve and improve that experiment. At the very time, all around us, we are seeing self-government and liberty expand. When we look at our economy, we see stagnation. We see the effects of institutions, be they the federal government, or be they the failed bailout banks on Wall Street, that think they are more important than you, that believe they are too big to fail. They are wrong. The only thing too big to fail in the United States are the sovereign American people. And that is why I have no doubt that you recognize the future is not big government, it is self-government. And that you will seize the opportunity to undo so much of the damage that has been done under the Obama administration and under the past Democratic majority in the Congress. And this is very simply why. We know we live in a period of time where you can, at your laptop computer, seek sources of information from anywhere you wish and use that information to make a decision. We know that in a BlackBerry in the palm of your hand, you can communicate around the world to the disparate reaches of Earth, to talk to friends, family members, or to make a purchase. We understand that today, in your lives, you are being empowered to make your own decisions to extents undreamt in human history. And yet we see one entity that refuses to recognize the reality around us, and that is big government. Today we live in what is known as a consumer economy. What that means is that you make the decisions, you make the investments, you make the purchases. That is called a free market. We cannot have the big government model that is highly centralized, highly vertical, taking your decisions, taking your property, and centralizing it in Washington. That is called the politics of the past. And that is why I would ask my fellow Republicans that when any Democrat tells you they are progressive, please correct them. They are not progressive, they are regressive. Because big government, the welfare state that was created and reached its zenith under Lyndon Johnson when I was born in 1965, is non-sustainable in 2011 in a globalized world. And that is why government must be restructured for the 21st century. It must not merely be shrunk, it must not merely be cut, it must be restructured the same way that businesses and families have had to restructure their priorities and their operations to be competitive in a global age. And the central organizing principle is this, as we of the party in Lincoln and Reagan well understand. The fallacy of the welfare state is that it tempts those who are self-reliant to trade their liberty and their property for false state benefits and security. We know that a compassionate country takes care of those who cannot help themselves and those who need temporary assistance to get back the dignity of self-reliance. But as we restructure government, we will never again ask a person who already has the dignity and the self-respect of a job, who has the dignity and self-respect of self-reliance, to ever become dependent on government, because we know you cannot empower an individual woman by making them dependent upon another person. That is wrong. And speaking of dependence, let us turn our eyes to the failed bailout banks on Wall Street. You know, we heard the concept of too big to fail. We know that as a practical matter, the bailout has not worked. We know that because we know that for the first time since the Great Depression, you have seen credit contract in the United States. That means that no matter how much tax relief we rightly do, no matter how much regulatory relief we rightly do, no matter how much of an all-of-the-above maximizing of energy policy in the United States we rightly do, this economy will remain stagnant until the banks are forced to recapitalize at their expense so that credit gets down to the entrepreneurs, innovators, and workers who will grow this economy in the near term and shape it for the 21st century. And more importantly even than that, you will reaffirm as a free people that we are all equal sovereign citizens, and you should not pay the failure of those banks out of the hard work and the fruits of your labor. And as you grow and shape this economy, as you seize freedom, as you restructure the federal government, you will also be asked to address the reality that we remain and are a nation at war, that we have brave men and women in uniform defending our liberty in foreign lands. And it is heartbreaking to know that we cannot bring them home as quickly as our hearts wish them to be. But make no mistake, as someone who has met with them, both at home and abroad, as someone who has met with the families of the fallen and tried to comfort them as best I could, they are quite proud of what they are doing to defend you, and they are rightfully so. Because, my friends in the party of Lincoln and Reagan, the American military remains a force for moral good in the world, because in order to secure our liberty, our young men and women in uniform are expanding liberty to others. And we will not abandon in a precipitate manner the fruits of their hard work, and we will not abandon those individuals who believed Lady Liberty when she said she would come give them a chance to enjoy the same God-given right to freedom that we enjoy here in our republic. We must also face another challenge. We have to accept the reality that communist China is a strategic threat and rival model of governance to the United States. And the reason, as the party of Reagan and Lincoln, we understand. As free people, we understand our liberty, which comes from our Creator, is the foundation of our security and the foundation of our prosperity. The communist Chinese regime in Beijing that butchered my generation in the streets of Tiananmen Square for quoting Jefferson and Madison believes that human liberty is a threat to state-provided security and prosperity. They are as wrong today as the Soviet Union was wrong in the 20th century. And I, for one, will not cede the 21st century to a communist nuclear-armed dictatorship that tells you how many children you can have, that tells you if you can pass out Bibles, tells you what Catholic church you can attend, or tries to culturally commit genocide against the people of Tibet. And my fellow citizens here at home, I will not allow, as a free and sovereign citizen, your sovereignty, your God-given rights to raise your children as you see fit, to engage your community and seek the common good. I will not allow that to be impaired by an imperialist federal bureaucracy, by an activist federal court, or by the United Nations or any outside entity. You are the masters of your fate, and you are the custodians of the legacy of liberty we have been bequeathed throughout the generations. And now, in a difficult time, you are asked to transcend the challenges we face. And at this period of time, there are many who ask whether or not the best days of the United States are behind her. There are many who wonder that with the powerful forces arrayed against reform, big government, the big Wall Street banks, our terrorist enemies, a regime in Beijing that seeks to own and dominate the 21st century, or outside entities that want to tell you how to live. Some people ask, do I matter anymore? Well, as the party of Lincoln, as the party of Reagan, as free and sovereign Americans, we know the answer to that question is very simply this: you matter more than ever. You matter more than ever because in your hands rests the true hope for change for the United States. Because as a people committed to work in faith, you understand that the lamp of liberty which you cradle in your humble hands will be bequeathed to future generations, that we will conserve and improve the free republic that we have inherited. That despite the challenges we face, despite the difficulties, despite some of the doubters, you will trod that hard road to happier times because you understand above all else that the true strength and salvation of the United States remains her free people in their virtuous genius and industriousness and the unfathomable grace of God. That is why you understand very simply what Washington and the Obama administration refuse to admit. The future is now, the future is you, and you will build a virtuous, purposeful, productive republic for generations to come, and if lucky enough to be nominated the Republican Party standard bearer in the fall, if honored enough to serve in the office of the presidency, I promise you this: I will not work for the pundits, I will not work for the bundlers, I will not work for the powerful, I will work for the people, I will work for you. God bless you, God bless the United States of America. Watch me fly.